bum, 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 bum. I can't play any instruments, so I can't finish the song, but you get the point, because it is finally time to cover a Pride event. Oh yes. This is another Patreon request, and when I heard at the chance of doing a Pride event on the Retro Review series, I was so pumped, because Pride, more so than the UFC, is what got me into this sport. From guys like Fedor, Krokop, Vanderlei Silva, Rampage, Shogun, and Ninja Hua, the Nogueira brothers, Sakuraba, and so much more. My childhood introduction to our wonderful sport was just beautiful. So, shout out to Simon, who requested this magical event, because today, I'm Joe with the INC, and we get to look at Pride 33. Pride 33 took place on February 24, 2007, when I was but a simple 7th grader. This one actually raked in over 2 million at the live gate, with just under 13,000 in attendance, but only like 8,000 paid. Pride actually had a variety of great commentators throughout the years. This time we have Lon McIrkin, with probably a top 3 guy I want to play Magic the Gathering with, former UFC champion Josh Barnett. Normally I do prelims here. Pride doesn't actually have prelims. They just kind of do like a big main card. This is an 8-fight main card. Tapology shows one order, Wikipedia shows another. So I just kind of decided to pick and choose the fights I get to go into detail on. And so for now, these are the prelims. Sergey Kuritonov got an armbar win in the first round over the owner of the best hammer fist I have ever seen, Mike Russo. James Lee got a 39-second guillotine choke over Travis View. OU alumni Frank Trigg got a decision win over Retro Review veteran Kazuo Masaki. Finally, the mega underrated and mega unknown lightweight Joaquin Hansen got a 3rd round armbar win over Jason Ireland. So for the first of the main card, we have Retro Review alum Little Nog taking on the 2-1 Cameroonian fighter Sokaju, and what is his Pride debut, while also coming off of loss to Glover Teixeira and WEC. While announcing the fighters, you actually get to see some faces in the crowd. The 2 ones of note, Nick freaking Cage and Indiana Jones himself, Harrison Ford, right behind him. Out the gate, Sokaju is attacking with an inside low kick, then a high kick. Little Nog presses him to the ropes. He goes for that same 2 kicks again. This time coming up with a left hook after the high kick. Boom! Little Nog gets put out in 23 seconds. This is like actually one of the craziest upsets in MMA history. To put this in perspective for you, this is like a random 2-1 fighter getting into the UFC and knocking out Colby Covington in 23 seconds. Normally these fast wins don't do much for me, but the significance of the upset really helps it out, so I'm going to go with a super solid 8 out of 10. Probably a bad rating on my part, but oh well. It's my rating. It's time to induct another guy into the Hidden Hammers Club. This time on the Retro Review series, we have Hayato Mock Sakurai. Sakurai is a very well-rounded fighter. Great hands, kicks, knees, and some superstar grappling. An insane career in MMA as well, with wins over Frank Trigg, Jens Pulver, and most famously, Shinya Aoki twice. He's taking on tough winner Mac Danzig, who after this fight would go on and join the reality show. It's not a great season of that show, but his performances were pretty good in it. Out the jump, both lightweights are tossing kicks out, with Danzig looking to step in with a punch. He's actually caught by a counter flurry from Sakurai. Danzig gets cornered, and while covering up, Sakurai goes in for more, this time getting a great knee in a clinch, which knocks Danzig to the floor. One counter hook attempt from Sakurai is a little wide. Danzig nearly takes the back. They hit the mat. Some light grappling, some nice ground and pound here and there, but after a submission attempt from Danzig, Sakurai lets him up. Danzig later moves in for a knee, and he gets taken for a pretty nice little ride after a hip toss. Sakurai's going for a straight armbar attempt late in the round, but no avail. Danzig survives the round. Second round opens up, and Danzig is tired of being walked down. So as Sakurai looks to go back to these low kicks, Danzig steps in, but once again he's clinched and tossed to the mat. Nice little shots from top position from Sakurai, but Danzig does kick him off. Danzig's now trying to be the aggressor this round, and Sakurai's calm, looking to land some counter hooks off his back foot. Suddenly, Danzig steps in with a jab, and a big overhand right catches Danzig flush. Hayato Sakurai wins with 1 minute left in round 2 by KO. I just love Sakurai, man. Such a cool fighter, and just like an unsung legend. Call it bias, but I'm giving this fight an 8.5 out of 10, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right. Good low kicks, and while it's kind of a mismatch, it's still fun to see a guy I admit I don't watch enough get to fight. Next up, we have 2 incredibly exciting debuts for the Retro Review series, as my personal favorite light heavyweight ever, Shogun Hua, takes on the world's finest connoisseur of horse meat, Alistair Overeem. Shogun Hua, what can I say about the man? Some of the best fights of all time, a future UFC champion at this point, and what many people may not know is at the time, Shogun was considered the #2 best light heavyweight on the planet, with some speculation that he might actually be #1, with basically almost every other, with the exception of one at the top of my head, being a violent stoppage win. For Overeem, now many of you might be shocked by his physique here. So in Pride, he was like a long, lanky kickboxer with an underrated ground game. But the big thing missing here is that he hasn't found the succulent delight of eating Mr. Ed's family, so he wasn't quite the masked, muscled monstrosity that he would become. Out the gate, we are cooking with gas as Shogun's looking for a low kick, and he looks to kind of immediately press Overeem. A brief clinch, Shogun goes for a trip, Overeem escapes, and he nearly takes the back, but he second guesses himself, stays on the feet to avoid a grappling exchange. Another clinch, Overeem's looking for some more knees in the over-under hook here. Another failed trip attempt from Shogun, but he actually has a hold of him as they do hit the mat. He looks for a Kimura from the bottom, Overeem escapes, he's in half guard. Shogun gets to the feet, he's looking for more hooks in the stand-up before another clinch where he gets the takedown finally. Shogun tries to get the ground and pound going from guard. Then he'll actually just get up, stack him, leap in with the right hand. But this one putting Overeem out cold with some extra shots at the end. This fight, well, it's actually one of the weaker ones, I think, in like Shogun's career at this point, which is kind of wild when you think about it. But it's still a decent 7 out of 10, I think. At the time, Shogun was on a slight decline after his injury in the Kevin Randleman fight. And he really just didn't get that oomph back, I feel like. That said, if you want to talk about mythical fighters like C-Level Kane or TRT Tor, they have nothing on my pick. Perpetually 23 Shogun Hua. For real, go look up his tournament run in Pride. You're welcome. It's time for our co-main event already. Nick Diaz takes on Takanori Gomi. So Takanori Gomi, he's kind of an unsung hero of Japanese MMA and one of the most fun fighters just outright to watch ever. When he got to the UFC, he was already kind of past his prime, but he still had some great fights. In Pride, he was their lightweight champion and was putting on some amazing fights with a nasty power that really was unheard of at lightweight at the time. Now, Nick Diaz, he needs no introduction. And at the time, he had just finished up his second run in the UFC where he went 2-0, but he just didn't resign with him so he could fight Gomi here in Pride. There's some other information about this fight as well, but I think I'll wait till afterwards. So out the jump, Diaz looks to walk Gomi down, looks for a 1-2, instantly just gets shot on and taken down. Diaz looks to spin out, gets a double wrist lock, but he just gets slammed to the mat hard. More shots from the top, with Diaz trying to set up some submission, so Gomi just wisely stands back up. Diaz just starts going for the punches, just pressing him instantly, and while trading, Gomi lands a massive lead right hand bomb that levels Diaz. Gomi tosses his hands out, thinks it's over, but Diaz survives. The rest of the round is Diaz just walking Gomi down, throwing constant punches. Gomi will try to circle, then they'll randomly trade for 5 seconds, and then rinse repeat. It is absolutely insane. After the break, they just go right back at it. Diaz's eye is bleeding, it's swelling up hard. That doesn't stop Diaz, though, from walking him down with more punches. Gomi shoots for another takedown, but while spinning to complete it, Nick tosses the leg over. He gets a beautiful go-go plata and puts Gomi out cold. Nick Diaz just upset the second best lightweight on the planet. Ugh. 10 out of 10 fight, though. Seriously, this fight's a brawl from start to finish. Just a crazy pace that was wearing me out even. I love it so much. This is my favorite Nick Diaz fight, honestly. Like, I have it slightly above the daily fight. But for that interesting tidbit of information I withheld before the fight, this fight's a no contest if you look it up. Yeah, Nick Diaz popped hot for weed. And apparently, the levels of THC in his system were so high that he had to have been high for the fight. And the commission says that he was so high, he couldn't have felt the punches from Gomi. Now, I call BS on that, but that's still really, really funny to me. Next up, we have another massive debut for the Retro Review series and in the main event of the evening as Wanderlei Silva takes on Dan Henderson. So Wanderlei Silva, the longtime king of Pride's middleweight division, which is basically light heavyweight as it was at 203 pounds. This guy in Pride was probably the most violent fighter ever. Justin Gaethje, Matt Brown, Carlos Condit, all these guys are stuck fighting for second place behind this guy. Stomps, knees, punches, so many knockouts, and he was easily one of the most feared fighters to ever fight and he's taking on Dan Henderson, probably the most successful fighter ever. The man was currently the Pride welterweight champion, which was at 183 pounds. It's confusing. This is actually a rematch. The first fight, Vanderlei won by unanimous decision after Dan Henderson survived like 80 stomps to the head. Out the gate, both dudes meet in the middle, looking for that opening to land their massive punches. Henderson looks for a flurry, nabbing a tie clinch. They trade inside for a moment, but after that, when they're in the corner, the ref just breaks him up. Vanderlei seems a little rattled, as he's being a lot more cautious than normal here, as Hendo is measuring him, then looking for a flurry with that massive bomb of his, nearly landing flush on multiple occasions. Hendo was winning the round with better accuracy in his striking, but near the end, Vanderlei finally flurries and hurts Henderson with a massive hook combination. Second round, they clinch up early. Hendo nearly gets Vanderlei down for a trip. Henderson snatches that head, and he gives him some nasty knees to the face. Hendo finally gets Vanderlei down, grinds him in guard, looking for opportunities to let loose with ground and pound when he can. Near the end of the round, Henderson actually stacks Vanderlei to land some big shots. Third round, and Vanderlei's looking for low kicks. Hendo is trying to step in for a flurry and they clinch, but Vanderlei stuffs that. Some missed punches from both guys before Henderson goes for a double, which Vanderlei actually defends really well. They rise in the clinch, and Vanderlei breaks with a super hard left hook. Henderson misses with a jab and just spins off of it to a spinning back fist that hurts Vanderlei. Big right hand, then a left hook right behind it. The next right hand misses, but then another left hook lands clean. Vanderlei Silva is out cold. Dan Henderson becomes MMA's first ever champ. So, entertainment-wise, this fight's pretty good, you know? But the significance of it, looking back, I actually think I scored the Ronda-Miesha Tate, their first fight, way too low. That fight, in hindsight, is a 10 out of 10 because of the significance of it. I'm not going to make that same mistake here. This fight, 10 out of 10. The first ever champ is such a great accolade to add to an already insane list of accomplishments in Dan Henderson's career. So what do I think of this card overall? Well, it may be shocking to say this for some people, but this isn't in my upper echelon of Pride events. And it's still an 8.5 out of 10 for me. I could be remembering most Pride events wrong, but while rewatching this event, I decided to go down memory lane afterwards. And I watched two events just for fun. Pride Final Conflict 2003 and 2005. Those might have topped UFC 217 as my favorite cards ever. Pride is just so unique compared to the UFC. Pride just had this element of pageantry that is just unbelievably entertaining. The UFC hates having anything that you could use to compare it to professional wrestling. Well, Pride kind of embraces that and makes it just have this great presentation that you don't really see. You have some obvious squash matches in their history, and there is some allegations of fight fixing. But that said, this is my all-time favorite promotion, easily. Once again, if you have an event you want to see me cover on the Retro Review series, then go ahead and join our Patreon, where you can request to have me watch just basically anything, from classic fight cards to just random fight nights even. I'll cover it and I'll make it happen for you. As always, thank you so much for the support on the series. I love doing these. I'm always happy that I just get such high praise for this, you know, like the warmth from the reception is just fantastic and really kind of keeps me going in this. I love it so much. And if you've missed any of this, you can go down to the playlist on the channel and you can check out the entire series of the Retro Review. And if you really miss me, then you can check me out on It's Not Cagefighting Live, where I recap UFC events and I even work on the preview shows with Carl before pay-per-views. I'm Joe with the INC. Pride never dies, and thank you for watching.